Well, hello, and welcome to the 10th and final conversation in this series, What's Love Got to Do with It? I hope you have enjoyed these conversations as much as I have. I thought we would start off today by taking a quick look at all of the various conversations that we've had so far, some of the highlights here and there, and then after which I have a little celebratory piece that I've prepared for us at the end. So let's begin with a quick overview, conversations 1 through 9. What's love got to do with it? Let's see. How should we begin a conversation? Because this year we're going to talk about love. How in the world should we talk about love? Well, if we went back to the 5th century BC, we'd run into Socrates here, and he would begin by saying, define your terms. Okay, why not? Define our terms. How would we do that? With love, there are all kinds of different ideas about love and whatnot. How would we define our terms? Well, I thought, let's start with the dictionary. That's a novel idea. So I did. I got out Webster and took a look at the Webster Dictionary. And Webster defines love as the assurance of affection. The assurance of affection. Guarantee. Guarantee of affection. Well, what's affection? Once again, Webster defines affection as tender attachment. Isn't that lovely? Tender attachment. How intimate, how personal, completely personal. So love then would be defined as the assurance of tender attachment, like we see. Oh, I told you last time, bring your marbles. Did you bring your marble? I happen to have, I couldn't find my marbles, but I did find an old shooter that I used to have. So, take a look at this. Take a look at this marble, this shooter. Crystal clear. Things in there that look sort of like galaxies all by themselves. Well, according to one of my favorite astrophysicists, Neil deGrasse Tyson, at the beginning of time, as we know it, everything in the universe, everything could fit into this marble. Everything. Every drop of water. Every mosquito. Every elephant. Every planet. Every star. Every galaxy. Everything could fit into this marble. Or maybe even smaller, short term. But from what science is able to determine, about 500 million years ago, life began on this planet. Not exactly sure how that occurred. Whether it occurred here first or whether it occurred somewhere else first and was brought here, we don't know all those answers yet. Science is hard after them, and we'll have answers, but not at the present time. Over this period, this 3.5 billion year period since life began on this planet, everything that we know in our daily lives, including ourselves, began at that time. Every particle of our bodies, all of it began at that particular time. Now we should always keep in mind the prophetic words of Karl Rahner. Karl Rahner, fantastic and wonderful theologian, philosopher, writer, lecturer. Karl Rahner said at one time, wrote that, do not underestimate what it means for nature to become. Do not underestimate what it means for nature to become. And as I mentioned to you in our last conversation, Elizabeth Johnson says that the dance of law and chance over unimaginable eons of time brings forth the community of life on earth as we know it. And she adds, it's all such an adventure. Is it indeed? Is it indeed? However, I know you're wondering, where is he going with all of this at the present time? Well, hang in there for just a moment. Symbolic thinking, our ability as humans to let one thing stand for another thing. We do this all the time. We do it so often that we might not realize the magic involved in that. Wow. Ancient art is a marker for this shift in cognitive activities. It is evidence for the first of the modern human mind. The gorgeous paintings found in, for instance, Chauvet, Lascaux, El Castillo in Spain. Up until that point, we do not see anything that smacks of figurative art. But with these experiences, as I mentioned, these three different places, Chauvet, Lascaux, and El Castillo, we see phenomenal figurative paintings. With these people, we see the full human package, as anthropologists will describe this. Humans were more or less comparable from that time, yes, to ourselves. Wow. So these are three really immensely interesting and important people from the early 4th century, 5th century with Augustine, through the 13th century with Aquinas and Gregory Palamas. Seeing Aquinas and Palamas on very, very interesting trajectories. Aquinas with this very intellectual approach. On the other hand, Gregory in this fantastic mystical approach. Experienced from the heart and experiencing with the head. Amazing and very important, right down to the present day. One of my favorite writers, and I've mentioned him before to you, is Karl Rahner. Fantastic theologian, philosopher of the 20th century. Here's a piece that he wrote that I think sums up where we are and what we have seen today as well. The devout Christian of the future will either be a mystic, someone who has experienced realities, or, as far as Rahner is concerned, or will cease to be anything at all. One can love Jesus, love him in himself, true, genuine, immediate love. You're actually only really dealing with Jesus when you throw your arms around him and realize right down to the bottom of your being that this is something you can still do today. Rahner calls us to throw our arms around Jesus, who he was, the very intricacy of his person is human and divine, blossoming in the love for all. In these three women, we see practical, experiential love. From the tiny little places of Therese to the cosmology of Hildegard, and the wonderful insight of Julian that, in fact, God is mother and father to every one of us. How often we are tempted to give up, give in. On those occasions, it would be well, I think, for us to think of Therese of Lisieux. seeing the eternal recompense so disproportionate to the trifling sacrifices of this life, she wrote. I longed to love Jesus, to love him ardently, to give him 1,000 proofs of tenderness, while yet I could do so in our world. Question the beauty of the earth. Question the beauty of the sea. Question the beauty of the air, amply spread around everywhere. Question the beauty of the sky. Question the serried ranks of the stars. Question the sun, making the day glorious with its bright beams. Question the moon, tempering the darkness of the following night with its shining rays. Question the animals that move in the waters, that amble about on dry land, that fly in the air. Their souls hidden, their bodies evident. The visible bodies needing to be controlled, the invisible souls controlling them. Question all these things. They all answer you. Here we are. Look, we are beautiful. Here we are. Look, we are beautiful. The beauty of the icon. And flowing from that, the beauty of architecture. Think of the magnificent pieces, both spiritual and divine, as well as the glory of human architectural ideas and notions. Just imagine that. Ah, yes. And the beauty of the Taj Mahal, a monument to love itself. We look at today. Let's look at performing arts. What do we use? Let's use music to tie all these various segments together. If we're going to do that, how about a definition of music? Here's one I found that I thought was quite nice. Music is a noun, of course, an art of sound in time. We've talked a lot about time and space and all the rest, but an art of sound in time that expresses ideas and emotions in significant forms through the elements of rhythm, melody, harmony, and color. That's a very nice definition. An art of sound in time, expressing emotions through rhythm, melody, harmony, and color. Well, I have put together what I hope to you will be a number of segments dealing with art, with love rather, in the performing arts. Each one of the segments will have something to say about love. Maybe a little obtuse in some, but I don't think so. I think it'll be just fine. Every one of them has something to do with love in the arts. What do we start with? Let's begin with some classical overtones. We'll begin with a snippet from an opera. We'll go from there into a symphonic piece. We're going to take one of the segments, the love sequence, out of Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet Fantasy Overture. But dance. Let's take a little clip out of a ballet piece. And then from there we'll segue into one of my favorite pieces in this entire conversation. From there then, let's look at theater. And then film. Oh my gosh. Think of the possibilities in film of love. I think you'll find this particular segment to be delightful. Absolutely delightful. After that, let's talk sacred music. I have a huge piece of sacred music that I think that you'll enjoy. And then, as a special treat, let's take a look at liturgical art. It would be most difficult to find liturgical art any more magnificent than in the Russian Orthodox Easter celebrations. So we'll take a look at the beginning of the Easter celebrations at Holy Savior Cathedral in Moscow. And then let's kind of settle into a couple of pieces of pop music. Why not? Willie Nelson and a friend. I hope that you will enjoy this. I can't wait. One man's myth. And that's what we'll do today. Let's gather ourselves and our ideas and go out in the world and explore one man's myth. I've got my hat. Let's begin. Oh yeah, that's much better. Well, let's see. To begin our little adventure, where should we begin? How about here? Right here. Out in the middle of things. Isn't this delightful? And a beautiful day beside. So, where in the world might we begin looking for the beginnings of this one man's myth? I'm telling you this. You don't have to find a character sketchbook if you don't want to. But I would suggest find a place where you can watch people. Remember, love your neighbor. We have to find out who is this neighbor. Go to some places where people congregate, where they meet, where they walk through. For instance, how about a grocery store? Or how about a restaurant? Maybe a bank? Or maybe a tavern? Perhaps a hardware store? Why not? How about a church? Now there's an idea. How about the train station? Well, how about that? All kinds of possibilities. Some places we might not even think of to go to watch how people are. A train station? A tavern? A grocery store? A hardware store? All kinds of possibilities where people meet and congregate, where we might learn about our neighbor. My goodness, we have covered a lot of territory over these last 9 conversations. Once again, I hope that you have enjoyed them as much as I have. To wrap it up and to finish with this series, let's take a look at what it means to be ambushed by love. Ambushed in our very own lives by those who in fact mean all of the world to us. Well, there you have it. Finally, our final quote from our young folks, 4 to 8 years old. And our final quote is from Max. And Max is 4 years old. I've saved this specifically for this last conversation. This child's next door neighbor was an elderly man who had recently lost his wife. Upon seeing him on his porch crying, the little boy went up to him, soon climbed onto his lap, and just sat there. When his mother asked what he had said to the neighbor, the little boy said, "Nothing. I just helped him cry." Goodness. Best to you always. My prayer for you as from the very beginning. May your name be safe in the mouths of those who love you, and vice versa. Blessings always.